Hi everyone! So this is going to be my coping skills video. First of all, I apologize if this video is weird because I don't do videos. And also, I'm looking at notes and stuff while I talk, so if my eyes dart around, that's why. Also, this is my friend Wally. Everybody, Wally the Walrus, here to help. So, to get into the video, I compiled a list of two things. I did some coping skills that are used by NAMI, which is an organization. You can look them up on Google. They run a lot of our groups at the hospital and have proven to be just like an amazing resource time and time again. I believe their website is nami.org, but I'm not 100% about that. It could be something else. I'll look it up and I'll leave that in the comments or the description. So I left out a couple of their coping skills because they're more panic related than anxiety related, and that's kind of a separate topic, especially because I want to focus on the coronavirus and isolation and just like generalized anxiety dealing with things like that. So we're going to start with the thing that I think is pretty much the first priority that you have to do before you even get into dealing with your anxieties, and that's emotional awareness. In the NAMI website, it's just called emotion awareness. And that is when you're just letting yourself feel the anxiety and preventing yourself from denying it. So a lot of times we will think about our anxieties and think, oh, it's not that bad, actually. Like, I'm just freaking out. I'm just overthinking it and being overwhelmed. And really, like, although that might be actually the case, that's not really helpful, and it doesn't help our anxiety when we're thinking about things like, oh, it's not even really a thing. That doesn't make it go away. That just makes you like get through the moment. So a better way, I think, to deal with it, and what NAMI says is a better way to deal with it, is to think about your anxiety, accept your anxiety, and don't like think about it as if it's not really happening. Think about why it's there, why you're anxious, and what the steps are you need to take to overcome that anxiety, or at least make it better. Because the goal isn't always just getting rid of your anxiety. Tons of people live with just like, unfortunately, baseline anxiety. And sometimes, don't set too lofty of a goal. Just try to make it better. Try to think of ways that you can just at least survive with it, or, get through your day, or at least just, have a few moments of peace and quiet in your head every now and then. And so some methods for doing this would be mindfulness, which is definitely a repeated topic. I can do a video on this later, by the way, the topic of mindfulness, meditation, stuff like that. Just going into yourself and thinking and taking that time, that break for a moment, just to think, why am I anxious? What's causing this? And what are the steps I can do to help myself feel better? And that's not always also just solving the problem. So try to think of it in terms of like, well, maybe I could make myself feel better by doing some kind of self-care, or maybe I could think of doing like starting a new book or a new hobby, something like that. Next is radical acceptance, and that's accepting that you can't change a situation. And so it sounds kind of cliche, honestly, like, oh, just accept that you can't change it and move on. But that's not what it's about at all. It's about thinking about the situation and understanding that since you can't be in control of certain aspects, there may be other aspects that you can control, and to focus on those. So this is just all about accepting the fact that the things that are causing your anxiety may not be able to be resolved, but they can be worked on, and there are things, or possibly are things, in the situation that I can control that will help me put my focus elsewhere, other than, trying to just control the bigger situation. For example, like the coronavirus isolation. We're all upset over it, but none of us can control it. None of us are in the positions of power that can do anything about it. None of us have a cure. So, we all just have to kind of accept that that's the situation we're in, and control the smaller things in our lives and our day-to-day that we can, and try to put our focus there. Okay, so the next concept is opposite to emotion thinking, and it can sound a little bit weird, but honestly, it's really easy. So you just have to do one thing to get yourself motivated to start doing other things. And you have to kind of stop listening to your emotions and do the absolute opposite. So if you're feeling like your head is spinning out of control, you can't calm yourself down, and you just like run around the house doing everything, you need to pick something to do that's going to calm you. It might feel like, that's just not what you want to do in that moment. And you're like, okay, you know what? No, I need to get this done, and I need to get this done, and I need to get this done. But you just need to take 5 or 10 minutes, promise yourself that you'll do something that's calming and go do it. Whether it's a hobby, an art, or a craft, do something that will focus you and stabilize you and draw your attention for the time that you need it to. Even if you only have 5 or 10 minutes, that can be enough sometimes to at least get your anxiety down a level so that you're not just constantly in that spiral of overthinking things. And then there's also mental reframing. This is another NAMI concept, and that is changing your perspective in a different way than radical acceptance does. So radical acceptance changes your perspective into just like accepting the fact that this is the situation and this is what I have to do. So mental reframing takes the situation a step further, and you think about the situation and say, well, this is really hard, but there are benefits. So let me give you an example. I'm stuck inside and can't even go to the store. My kids are driving me insane. I'm going to be late on all my bills. So this changes that perspective to, I may be stuck inside, but at least it gives me a lot of extra time to spend with my family. My kids will be safe if I need a short break. Even though I may be late on my bills, my companies are offering relief and understand what we're going through. So it's just taking your perspective from kind of the negative side and saying like, well, I'm stuck here, stuck doing this, I don't have any options, to, well, really, honestly, I do have options because a lot of people understand what's going on. At least I get to spend some time with my kids. They'll go back to school eventually. This is not going to be a permanent situation for me. Or, you can ask, like, for example, shared parenting time and grandparents. We still have situations where people are needing babysitters and having to go to work. So you can look that as a benefit as well. At least they still get to see their grandparents when they're being babysat because I still have to go to work, if that's your situation, kind of like mine is. So that's it for the NAMI ones. And now I have some other things that I want to talk about that have worked for me both personally and that I've seen work with my patients clinically, and also that I've learned clinically in the field from other nurses using this for their patients. One of the ones that comes specifically from me, but I'm sure that other people use as well, is living in the moment. So this is when you only think about the next step that you need to take. It's not about 2 steps ahead, 3 steps ahead, 4 steps about. This is 4 steps ahead. This is about going back and saying, what do I need to do right now for the next step of the situation to take its course? You don't think ahead any further than that. You just say, what do I need to do next? And then you keep going until you have hit the end of the situation. It helps a lot. And for me to do this, what I do is I put it into chunks of 72 hours. So I look at my calendar and I map out the next few days of what I'm going to be doing and what my plans are, but I don't ever go ahead of 72 hours. And of course, there's exceptions to the situation. I have a planner. I schedule things ahead, of course, all the time, stuff like that. But when you're coming to your active day-to-day thinking, what you're going to do with your day, how you're going to structure your life, taking it in 72-hour chunks is a really good idea, of course, with exceptions with special circumstances and situations. And then spirituality. I see a lot of people talking about spirituality as a great coping mechanism, and I completely agree. However, it can be something that we can get a little too far into. You need to make sure, if you're the kind of person that gets a little bit hyper-religious, that you take it slow. People can often give up the control of their life to their faith and spirituality, which is not a healthy coping mechanism, because honestly, realistically, you still have to deal with your life. So as long as you take spirituality in healthy chunks, it's totally legit coping skill, and it can make us feel safe. It can make us feel heard. Things, prayer, meditation, everything like that is a spiritual practice. You can read religious books, self-help books, self-discovery books. That's all part of this. It's really healthy. Just like I said, make sure not to go too far with it, and maybe take this opportunity in isolation to figure out what it is you believe in. If you don't really ascribe to a specific religious or spiritual belief, maybe there is something like nature that gives you that spiritual connection that you're looking for, like hiking, even as simple as just getting outside. Maybe rely on that. Outside is not canceled. Just stay 6 feet away from each other at all times and practice safe social distancing. And you can go on walks on the trails and stuff, and that's perfectly healthy as well. And then schedule rest, take 5. I love this one because a lot of people tell me that they don't have any time for rest in their day. Like they don't even have a minute to rest. They have 4 kids running around their house and they can't. There is no time for rest until their head hits the pillow at the end of the night. And to this I say, I disagree, because even with kids, like I have 2 kids running around my house, not constantly, but very often. And I am able to take a 5-minute break here or there, and I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old in the situation. And the toddler part is the hardest part, but even then you can say, Mommy's gonna go and take a break for a minute, or Mommy's gonna go to the bathroom for a minute, I'll be right back. I often use a tablet for my 3-year-old to distract him, or a snack even. And for young infants, you can put them in the crib for 5 minutes. They'll be okay. Someone like the 6-year-olds, they can play video games, read a book. There's a lot of things that you can use as a distraction mechanism for your kids to be able to get at least just 5 minutes. That's all you need. I know you can make time in your day for 5 minutes, even if you have to use the bathroom break excuse. And then the last one I have is write the brutal truth and burn it. And the burning is optional, guys. So don't be safe if you're actually going to burn it, but the burning is optional. Take a piece of paper. This is kind of my spin on journaling, by the way. Take a piece of paper and write down the absolute honest, like everything that comes from your head. Write down the bad, write down your negative thoughts, your intrusive thoughts, like exactly how you're feeling. Don't BS it. You're only talking to yourself. No one is ever going to see this. It gives you a chance to process the information. It gives you a chance to make sure that you're not in denial about the situation, and it allows you to vent. And you can prevent anyone from recognizing that the paper has ever existed, including yourself, by simply shredding it, burning it safely, or, deleting it from your computer if you decide to write it digitally. Okay, guys, so those are my coping skills. I tried to keep it short, so I'm sorry if I talked fast in some parts. I want to make sure that people have time to watch this. So thank you so much for watching, and if there's a lot of interest, I may do another one in the future as I come up with more things to help. Thanks. Bye.